Yeah, I was like at work today, and then I realized I was like, oh shit, I don't know if Dewey listens to the show and if he's gonna know what bottom split moment of the week means.
I think it's funny because the first one I thought of was like Catherine Legg, and then I saw it being on the show sheet, and I'm like, oh fuck, now what do I do?
That's kind of also what I was thinking about. I was like, that was pretty bad.
It was so egregious. I think it'd just be like the collective group one.
Yeah, that
Like,
it might have to be. So
like the same vibe as like watching the old Monday Night Countdown videos on ESPN and just seeing the "Come On Man" segment.
yeah, I'm tempted to do for mine because a few weeks it was Martinsville. Davies bottom split moment was or no, Joe's I think was the finish of the Xfinity race. Davies was Chris Wright got a top 10, and mine was Dean Thompson got a top 10. So I might make mine Dean Thompson won a stage.
Oh no.
Oh my god, my mouse is about to die. Anyway, uh, well, we might be starting the cold opening of the show with spoilers, but hey, welcome to the Fake Racers podcast, a very special version. Davey's still on his honeymoon. Joe is away from home right now, so we have a special guest here today.
Yeah. Hey. What's up?
That's right. It's the Oof Racers podcast. We couldn't get Steven this week. He's been real busy and hasn't been able to watch racing recently. But just the two of us talking racing, and this will be good. I thought about making a theme song for this, and then I was like, wait, Joe would be mad if I made it because I told him I was gonna make a theme song for FRP this year, and I haven't done it yet. And I feel bad if I made one for a one-off special episode and not the actual show. So here we are, though.
Need to do like the My Sacrifice clip that you used for Greg Dortch. We gotta like reuse that and make it racing related somehow.
Yeah. Now I'm trying to think of lyrics for it. It's Fake Racers Podcast with Dewey. Anyway, I guess we'll kick it off with a race review. We don't have a cup race to talk about this weekend, which is kind of, makes our jobs a little bit easier. But it was all that said an important race because it was NASCAR's return to the Rock. And boy, let me tell you, nothing makes you feel older than watching a race where you're like, man, I remember watching the last time we were here when I was 8 years old. And watching Casey Kane and Matt Kenseth have that photo finish, and I was like, man, this Casey Kane guy is going to be good. And then Casey came out of retirement for this race, and that was 21 years ago.
Yeah. I have a couple moments with tracks like that, like Nashville for me, but no, I was too young to remember all the old Rockingham races, so this is the first one that like I can solidly put in my memory bank and said, yeah, I remember what happened at a Rockingham race, and to me that was really cool. And was there stupid stuff that happened this weekend? Yeah, absolutely, and most weekends have their stupid stuff, but overall I think this was a massive success for them to bring back such a storied, valued, and unique track back to the circuit again.
Oh yeah, just the entire time I couldn't just stop thinking. I was like, man, this rules. You know, it was just
Yeah.
And we'll get into this more as we talk about specific stuff in the race. But like, just watching such a unique track with, there's obviously so much history, but Rockingham is so weird to drive, and it was such a challenge for the drivers all day, especially in the Xfinity race, where guys were just like sliding through every corner, like on the limit of control. Like the incident where Jeb Burton like gave Justin Bonsignor a tap, and then Justin like literally drifted for like 10 seconds trying to save it, and then finally just lost it on corner exit. Like, you're not getting that anywhere else. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a very unique circumstance, and like obviously only a handful of people that were in either race like had experience there, But even they had to essentially relearn the place because besides those couple of laps they got at the test back in January, brand new pavement on that place since they last ran there in 2012 for trucks, and they threw the safer barriers up there, which made them have to, remeasure the length of the track.
Yeah, yeah, I did notice that.
Like when they tuned in for the truck race, I was like, wait, what do you mean it's 0.94 miles? I thought it was like 1.1 something, and then they said, oh yeah, we measured it because of the safer barriers. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean that's how I learned that they measured the distance of the track by the outside wall. So.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, though, a lot of dumb stuff happened, and we'll start with one really dumb one, which is Jesse Love, air quotes here, won. Absolutely dominant day. I mean, obviously, he really had to work for it at the end of this race, but Jesse Love was far and away the class of the field. And we ended up finding out why, because the car failed post-race inspection for being too low in the rear, and Sammy Smith scores, what is that, career win number 2, I believe? Or no, career win number 3?
It's number 3, yeah. So there's something very fitting about the car with the DEI-styled 8 winning the first race back at Rockingham.
I didn't even think about that, yeah.
Like, Junior brings the number style back, the track comes back, and of course, like, not physically, but the 8 ended up in victory lane, and, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I did really like Jesse Love had a tweet where he just said, like, it's a good thing I have a safe. Like, you're not getting this trophy from me.
I liked what Connor Zilich posted after that, where it was a picture of the two of them, and it said P13 and P38.
I hadn't even seen that one. Oh my gosh.
Well, I think my favorite part too was, so you mentioned Justin Bonsignor, and he wrecked out of the race later on. I forget who he got into. I think it was Sheldon Creed later on in the race.
Yeah, he wrecked Creed earlier in the race. Obviously not intentionally, but yeah.
Yeah, and it took both of them out of the race, but like, Justin Bonsignor was originally scored in 36th, but the 19 still went through tech, and they DQ'd him for something else, so they just dropped him 2 spots in the running order.
Oh, I didn't even see that. Oh my god.
So there was a double DQ, and it was the winner and the guy that finished third to last.
That's awesome. Like, that's just insult to injury. So I'm glad you brought that up, because you know how, like, Google Chrome on mobile, it will, like, recommend articles to you? And there was one that was like, Justin Bonsignor apologizes to Sheldon Creed, and I just, like, clicked on that, and he was, like, talking about how garbage their day was, and, like, getting spun by Jeb Burton, and then he was like, yeah, and I feel bad I junked Sheldon, too, and I was like, oh, okay. And I just add another one to the pile, why not?
Yeah, it's been I was really excited for Justin Bonsignor to get that opportunity with Gibbs after the one-off at Loudon last year, but I don't think it's gone so far the way that any of them, thought it would, because, there's the wreck at Daytona when he was running good, had the issues at Homestead, and now, didn't run that great at Bristol, and now this. So, like, I hope he can get it together, but it's been a little rough for him coming up into Xfinity so far.
He's a modifieds guy, isn't he? Or am I misremembering that?
Yeah, he's one of, like, arguably the top 5 best modified drivers ever. He's like a 4-time champion.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, up there with Doug Coby and Richie Evans is, like, the best of the best.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's been rough so far. And I just found the JSKI article. It was lug nuts not installed in a safe and secure manner. So I believe that is, because they'll hand out fines if there's a loose lug nut at the end of the race. They probably had multiple loose, if I were to guess. Or even missing, probably.
I think it's 3 or more for them to actually DQ you for it.
Yeah.
If I remember right. So the 19 crew did a fucky-wucky somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, to go back to the finish, though, once again, if you're a Ryan Sieg fan, pain.
God, man, I was going to bring that up next.
There's a little solace in the fact that he ran out, like, he wasn't going to make it. But, you look back at, because there was a rash of cautions at the end of this race, and the one where he was out front, I think it was in front of Parker Retzlaff by, like, 3 or 4 seconds, and Jesse Love was stuffed back in third. If it goes green from there, I think he's got a shot, because he's got a gap, and we knew Retzlaff was also short on fuel, and so he's got a little room to play with to try to save. But as soon as those cautions kept coming out and just kept putting Jesse Love right next to him, it was basically over. But a thing I did find interesting watching that late race battle was when we talked about Texas last year on this show. And one of the things that Davey and I were mentioning was that at the end of that race, what really did him in was as Sam Mayer started to close in on him, Sieg just went back to the inside and just tried to run his line, and that allowed Mayer to basically get clean air and catch him. And we were saying, like, he doesn't have a lot of experience battling for wins. And one of the things that he's probably going to take away from this race is in those stages, you need to be taking away what's making Mayer good rather than just doing what you're good at, right? And I thought it was really cool to watch him moving around the track and predicting Jesse Love's moves, and Kligerman called that out on the broadcast that that's what Sieg was doing. And I couldn't help but, like, see, like, a little bit of a roundabout thing of, like, that was something that we talked about, and obviously Ryan Sieg doesn't watch this show, but cool to see that come kind of full circle. So, I think he's going to get one eventually, but yeah.
It has to happen, right?
Yeah. I mean...
There was one lap in particular, I think, where Jesse Love had pulled side by side with him going down the backstretch, and he passed him and cleared him back on the high side, the middle of turns 3 and 4, which was probably the most impressive pass anybody made all day, and I think he was on tires that were a little older than the ones on the 2, so for him to pull that off was like, he's genuinely getting better, and again, it's just a matter of time, I think, before he ends up parking that 39 where it belongs.
Oh, yeah.
But another one, though, where it feels like victory or defeat was, rose up from the jaws of victory.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he gets caught up in that late race restart crash when he and it's Christian Eckes both sputtering on fuel on that late race restart.
Yeah, he was only back there because he started running out and couldn't keep up the pace speed, so he restarted 7th, but he was the leader at the time of the caution.
Yeah.
So if his car hadn't sputtered, he would have restarted up there and been in front of the whole thing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Eckes runs out running second and cleans out Allgaier, and I believe Brandon Jones was in it. A whole bunch of cars all get torn up.
Yeah, there were a good 6 or 7 in that one.
Yeah.
The 2 red flags at the end.
Yeah, that too. I know, I was watching the end of this race, and I was like, this is just another one of those ones that just won't end. Goddamn.
I was like, are they going to actually get this thing in with the impeding sunset? But thankfully they did.
Yeah. We also almost had a Taylor Gray versus Sammy Smith rematch. But, Taylor Gray and his crew chief both been talking about, they're like, man, that's not how we race. Like, Taylor wants to go out and win it right. And in the end, though, Sammy Smith does benefit from this, DQ at the end. But something that Noah Joyce and I, friend of the show, were talking about was Parker Retzlaff, P3. Great day. Parker had a run on Sammy Smith going into turn 3, and he backed off. And
it ended up being for the win.
Yeah. He's got to be thrilled. Like, he and Tommy Joe have to absolutely be celebrating this, but there's also got to be part of him that's like, God damn it.
Yeah. I mean, but Brennan Poole right behind him, Alpha Prime leaving Rockingham with a double top 5, I don't think would have been on anybody's minds going into the weekend. So, to put those cars in 2nd and 4th after the DQ to the 2 is, has to be the single greatest weekend that team's ever had. And for a guy that's been around as long as Tommy Joe, and for a guy that's put in as much work as Tommy Joe is, to see his team get a performance like that and be rewarded like that was really damn cool.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, credit where's credit due, too. Parker Retzlaff qualified P2 and ran top 10 all day. That was genuinely on, the pace they had at this race.
Yeah.
And,
but Brennan Poole started 28th.
Yeah.
He clawed his way through the field to get there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I've been singing Brandon Poole's praises for Alpha Prime for the last year and a half. And, again, just another, great day for them. But, it really seems like they're starting to build something with him and Retzlaff. So, kudos to those guys.
I mean, and with the 4th at Martinsville, 2 top 5s already for that team, and neither one of them were at a plate race.
Yeah, yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, other notable good runs, Harrison Burton. They've had a wretched run of luck. He comes home P3. Josh Williams, P7. Been rough go of it. He's definitely been faster this year, but they have just had some rotten luck.
He had been battling pneumonia for a good month and a half.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that
So
explains.
like that was a really strong run for him. Like I think he's finally starting to get over that now, and so like this like going to Dega where anything can happen, I think that 11 team can have a good amount of momentum here for the next stretch of the year. And you mentioned Burton too. I think that's the best finish ever now for AM Racing and Xfinity.
I believe so.
So
Yeah.
that hell of a run for the 25 group, especially with how last year went.
Yeah. Also mentioned for in the sweepstakes of dumb stuff happening to them, Connor Zilic qualifies on pole and then has a flat tire on his cooldown lap, which sends them to the back of the pack. So already a terrible way to start your race, and then he has another flat tire and loses 2 laps, and then it was like shocking how fast he made up those 2 laps. Like, I thought for sure it was going to ruin his day, and then all of a sudden he was knocking on the door of the top 15, and he comes home P13. So, pretty good recovery. I do want to talk about, because if I don't end up cutting it out, it'll probably end up being the collective bottom split moment of the week. Casey Kane came out of retirement for this race, and he was fast. He had a good day, but it all came unglued when Catherine Legg, God bless her heart, just like stopped going into turn 1 and got cleaned out by William Sawalich, and it just like destroyed her car, punched a big old hole in the nose of Kane's car, and man, like I don't know how to get. It's been bad. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at with Catherine Legg so far. I expected better because like she's not a bad race car driver.
It's a bit of a tough situation for her to kind of jump into because like she had the couple starts back in 2018. I think like Richmond, and there was another one in there somewhere. But you know the 32 car is obviously the third of the Jordan Anderson cars, and it's already DNQ'd a couple of times because it doesn't have the owner points with it not being a full-time car. So she, a relatively inexperienced stock car driver going to a track she's never been before in a car without a lot of owner points, and asking her to try to qualify in on time was about as monumental of a task as you could possibly ask a new driver to do. So her DNQing didn't surprise me, and that's not because of a lack of talent by any means. It's just that was a really tough situation to try to have to work with.
Yeah.
And so obviously, Jordan Anderson and her sponsors and her, they want her to get the reps. So it made sense for her to try to buy out another car. I just don't know if buying out a car like the 53 was the move to make for that. Like, I don't know how many other rides she could have done that with, but, I think it's very safe to say that, the Joey Gase equipment just isn't quite what even the 32 is.
Yeah.
And so for someone to try to learn in a kind of underpowered car at a very tricky track that doesn't have a lot of room for lapped cars to be out of the way in, like, I'm not really surprised that all panned out the way it did.
Yeah, and this is like not me. This is not an indictment on her as a driver. I mean, she's won a ton of IMSA races. She's very clearly a very talented race car driver. But she's also 44. And you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody who's going to jump into stock cars at one of the most difficult tracks NASCAR's ever gone to and try... You're not only trying to learn stock cars, but you're trying to learn Rockingham. So it is just... it just sucks, because, like, Joey Gase has a destroyed race car now. Casey Kane, like, this was the thing he was basically looking forward to for this year, and it ends up not mattering.
Yeah, and obviously Joey Gase is, trying to build his own program up, and with the mechanical issue to Greg Van Alsten, the 35, it was just about as bad of a weekend for that team as it possibly could have been.
Yeah.
But when I look at how it's gone so far for Catherine Legg, it reminds me of when Jimmy Johnson jumps to IndyCar.
Yeah, definitely. It is kind of a parallel to that, because again,
where I think if both of them made the jump maybe 5-6 years before they did, it would probably go better. But no matter what sport you're in, maybe except for like, I don't know, curling, if you start doing it and trying something drastically new in your mid 40s, you're already past your athletic prime. So
Yeah.
the ability to really learn and get to the top is already kind of diminished as opposed to doing it when you're, in your late 20s or mid 30s.
Yeah, and I should also mention, like, obviously Catherine Legg and Jimmy Johnson are not on the same level in terms of, like, their accomplishments and talent levels. And that, again, not an indictment of Catherine Legg, more of giving Jimmy Johnson his flowers, because he's an all-time great.
And even he struggled a ton
Yeah.
when he started doing that.
Yeah, it's hard to throw somebody into a really high level of motorsports that they've never done before, and also them be in their mid-40s. You're asking a lot. So,
And
yeah.
so she's in the 32 again for Talladega, and she's got, I think, 5-ish other races after that. And she showed speed when she ran ARCA at Daytona before getting caught up in that early wreck. So I think Dega could go okay, but I just think Rockingham specifically was just not the... It just wasn't a good recipe for success for anybody involved in that.
Yeah,
So,
agreed.
but I think we also need to mention that, William Sawalich didn't really break for that either.
Yeah, and it is one of those things where they talked about it on the broadcast, where when they showed it from the aerial view, it looked pretty bad for Sawalich. But when they showed his onboard, like, you can kind of see Legg on the outside of the car that he's coming up on, and then she's basically, like, stops going into the turn one. And he, you're already braking and the car's under load, and you're already, fighting the grip and the right front tire, and so there's not much he could have done in that situation. Obviously hindsight's 2020, and if you ask Sawalich again, he's like, yeah, I'll probably take it easier going into that corner or go lower, but that is what it is. So.
It has been a brutal start to his rookie year, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not been
good. 10 races in, he only has 2 top 10s, and he's an entire race behind his teammate Eric Almirola, who's only run 4 races so far.
Yeah, I'm looking at his results right now, because, 9th at Atlanta and 9th at Coda, and his only other top 20 finish was a 13th at Phoenix. It's been bad.
Yeah, the only other full-time drivers that have run all 10 races that are beneath him in points are Kyle Sieg, Ryan Ellis, Blaine Perkins, and Chris Wright.
Oof. Yeah, and
Garrett Smithley,
missed,
who didn't run Coda.
Yeah, missed 1 race so far. Yeah,
so and Parker and Retzlaff's ahead of him, and he DNQ'd Coda.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
So it's been pretty rough, and like I think Sawalich has the talent. Like, I think anybody that hops into the JGR ARCA car is a bit difficult to evaluate in terms of talent level because of how OP it is compared to every other car in that field.
Yeah.
But I still think that there's talent in that helmet. It's just, I think it's going to take him a little bit to fully adjust to a brand new car with a heightened level of talent and, to actually get his feet underneath him and string some good runs together.
Yeah, agreed. So, I think that's all we have for the Xfinity Series return to Rockingham. Obviously, already been people question, like, are we going to bring the Cup Series here? I don't know what race we'd knock off the schedule, but I hope that'd be pretty cool.
I'm cool with it.
So
maybe they give North Wilkesboro a point state and move the All-Star race there or something.
Oh, yeah, that would be cool, too. I'd be okay with that.
Something to think about.
Yeah. So, anyway, that was Xfinity. Truck Series. Definitely I don't know what the transition I'm going for is. Something about a surprise winner. Tyler Ankrum breaks, I believe, the longest winless drought in Truck Series history. I know
130 races.
Matt Crafton's got to be up there. 07 to, I think, 2012 was his, or 2011, something like that.
He's working on another one right now with the current streak he's on, too.
Just a little bit.
I think, like, Kansas 2020 was his last one.
Now I gotta look this up. Hang on.
I'm pretty sure it was one of the COVID Kansas races that he last won.
Let's see.
He's won, like, a single race in the last, like, 8 years.
Yeah, Kansas 2020. Yeah. He made the
And
Final Four in 2021 somehow.
And speaking of that, Matt Crafton going into this weekend was one of the guys I had high hopes for because he's one of the few guys that ran in that Truck Series field that ran one of the races in Rockingham back in 2012 when they went there a couple times.
He probably raced there. I'm trying to think when if the Truck Series was still going there in like 03 or 04.
I think 11 and 12 were the only two truck races there.
Ah, okay.
But Matt Crafton obviously was in both of those, and I
Yeah.
think Parker Kligerman was the only other one. So Thor Sports looked okay so far, and as evidenced by how Jake Garcia did this weekend, the equipment is still there. So I was like, you know what? This is a perfect chance for Matt Crafton to really, maybe not win, but get a great run underneath him and maybe go on a little bit of a stretch run to get himself in the playoffs. And then Thor Sport just kind of collectively took a big deuce this weekend outside of the 13.
Yeah. Crafton had engine issues. I think Rhodes got in a crash, right?
He had the power steering failure.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, and then it's Majeski who crashed. Yeah.
Majeski wrecked out, and I think Fenhouse wrecked out too in the 66. So it was a rough one for that team.
Yeah. And then Jake Garcia, who's definitely been very improved this year, started on pole, ran up front all day, led a bunch of laps, finished second. But he finished second to Tyler Ankrum, like we were talking about, because this race came down to fuel strategy. I can't really remember who was basically on pace to win. I think it was going to be Corey Heim again, but
Chandler Smith was up there, I think.
Yeah, Smith ran out, I think,
Garcia.
coming to the white flag when he was running like second or third, something like that.
Yeah, both of the front row trucks did. Lane Riggs was like right behind him, and he ran out at the same time.
Yeah, that's brutal. But yeah, rough day or rough finish, I should say, for the FRM guys, but pretty cool for Tyler Ankrum. That's the second, I was going to say winless drought, because Hemrick had never won before in the Truck Series, but, two guys getting much needed wins already in the season, and I believe all four trucks finished in the top 10. Jack Wood had a good day. Obviously Hemrick finishes P3. Connor Mozak had a ton of issues, including, getting involved with Bailey Curry on lap 2. And he recovers.
Poor Bailey Curry, man.
Yeah, I was mentioning that last week.
Oh.
Bailey Curry and, Matt Mills, too, I think at this point can be in it, and Caden Honeycutt. All three of those guys have showed a lot of speed this year, and they just cannot catch a break. Like Bailey Curry
especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been so bad.
He took the lead with 4 to go at Daytona and finished like 25th because he wrecked out on the last lap.
Yeah.
Very easily could have won that race, and he was only in that race because Christian Rose's sponsor fell through before the season even started.
Yeah.
And then won the stage at Bristol, was up there late, and what was it, the drive shaft that broke?
Something
super
like
late?
that, yeah.
And then getting wrecked on lap 4 or lap whatever it was at Rockingham. And credit to Connor Mosak for recovering to get back up there because his truck had the speed, but the 44 just got so much damage. He was just done for, basically.
Yeah, and I believe Honeycutt qualified on pole at Daytona, wrecked from the lead like 4 laps in.
Yep.
And then didn't he win a stage at Martinsville and was like running right up front too, and then he got wrecked late?
Yeah, him and I think either Heim or Majeski had the whole thing late in that race.
Yeah, so it's been tough for Nice ever since then. And another guy it's been really tough for, I don't know if you saw this, but Stewart Friesen had a big one late in the race.
Oh my god.
Really hard hit. He and Tanner Gray get together. And this article...
That was the Matt Mills wreck, too.
Yeah. This article popped up in my recommendations, and I want to read this Stewart Friesen quote, because boy is it sad. It's just him talking about his whole weekend. Tried to go wide open in qualifying and kiss the wall. They did a really good job putting it back together. It was just as fast in the race as it was in practice. Just trying to bide our time. Saw Raja get loose and tried to check up as much as I could and got run over. It is what it is. I'll tell you, the last 2 weeks we've had really fast trucks, but it really makes me question if all these headaches are even freaking worth it anymore. It's what I've wanted to do my whole life, race at this level. The top 2 series are not in my lifetime, so this is what I live and die for. I don't know. Maybe it's not worth it anymore.
Yeah. It's been a pretty decent start to the year for him. He got the runner-up at Atlanta. He had the top 10 at Vegas and the top 10 at Martinsville. But then the last 2 weeks have just been as brutal as they could possibly be. because he's had a lot of speed, at Bristol, had the suspension failure, and then getting wrecked out like that is just rough. After the crew spends all that time to get the truck even ready to race, still has a decent amount of speed, and then just getting it killed again.
Yeah,
I kind of get it.
yeah. I sometimes wonder like where Stewart, because like he's obviously carved out a respectable program, but I just had to check. He only has 3 career wins, and you look back at
Hmm.
like 2018 and early 2019, how many races that he blew, and that when he was partnered with GMS, they were building something really special, and then 2020 they switched to Toyota and it reset him back to step one, and he's really never recovered from that. And it's just it sucks. I mean, I like Stewart. I'm kind of rare in that camp. But like the truck series needs guys like Stewart Friesen, and it's just a bummer to see him like so down, where it just seems like you can't even catch a break.
And I want to add that, like, I guarantee you that there have been plenty of other drivers over the years that have felt the exact same way that he does after a rough stretch of races. But it was still really jarring to hear a driver just be that open and blunt about it in an interview on TV about it.
Yeah,
Like,
it
you very rarely see it portrayed and played out that way.
yeah, because so much of it is like PR speak, all the time. Like
Right.
they're not going to tell you what you want to hear, and it just takes me back to 2023. So it's time for my weekly scheduled Matthew derails the show to talk about motocross. Jeremy Martin is a guy who's unfortunately now pretty much retired, who 2-time 250 motocross champion, always super talented, but just was never able to stay healthy enough to get a team to invest in him to race 450s. And in 2023, he stayed healthy throughout the entire Supercross season, and he was talking about that. He's like, literally, my goal is to just get to outdoors healthy because I know I can still win races there. And he did, and then the first outdoor race of the season, he and his teammate Garrett Marchbanks ran like 23rd all day. And Steve Mathis interviewed him after the race, and he was like, you guys just getting acclimated? And he was like so candid, and he was like, it's just bad, Steve. Like, he's like, I was just bad. I don't know. It's like, maybe I just don't have it anymore. And it, like, I remember like hearing that interview and just being like, Jesus Christ, dude, I don't know if I've ever heard somebody be that candid. And then the very next week was Hangtown, and he had an awesome ride to finish top 10, and then in the first corner of the second moto, he crashed and broke his arm and was done for the year. And it was like, it was so jarring to just see him be that dejected, and then season literally end turn 1 2 races later. And like, it's going to be hard for me to watch the rest of the season, and when something goes wrong for Stewart Friesen, to just not think about him saying like, is this even worth it? Like, why am I spending my money doing this?
Yeah.
So
And the thing with him is, like, obviously this is something he wants to do since he's stuck around with it this long and he's pumped so much of his own money in there. But he's been around on the dirt scene for so long, and he still runs a ton of dirt races in between the truck ones, and he's still really successful at it, that he could just pack up his truck stuff tomorrow, say, you know what, I'm done with it. I'm going to go back to where I know I'm successful and just rip off a bunch of dirt wins for the next 20 years until he's content, done doing that. But
yeah,
it just kind of stinks for, like, a guy that, as you mentioned, that provides that, that truck series veteran presence that the young guys would benefit to have around, to just walk around so dejected because a couple runs just go so sour so quick.
yeah. I
Like,
wonder.
I get a much different vibe from him than I do from, like, Johnny Sauter and Matt Crafton, for, like, those, older guys that, have ended up finding their footing in that series.
Yeah, I wonder if Stewart ends up stepping away, if he'll still field a truck just for somebody else, because I could see him going like the Tommy Joe route, but I guess we'll see.
I've thought about that too. Like, I could definitely see TRD saying, hey, could we convince you to stick around and put one of our young guys in there, or are you done? But
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't come to that form, especially not mid-season, because again, he's already had some, top 10 runs this year and has had the speed, but I hope he finds it in him to at least stick it out through this year and see where it goes. But
Yeah.
Yeah, that was still really almost insane to actually hear in an on-air interview, to just be that brutally honest.
Yeah.
Like, damn.
So I had a section in the show sheet that was favorite standout performances, but we kind of already talked about those, especially with like the Alpha Prime duo and a few other guys. So I guess we'll just call the race wrap up there, and we'll go from
I
the
do
shop.
want to bring up one quick thing, though.
Yeah.
Quick thing. I do want to shout out Jeremy Clements, who got a top 10 in the Xfinity race as a result of the Jesse Love DQ. And that was his first top 10 at a non-plate track since Watkins Glen in 2022.
Holy shit.
It's been a pretty rough go of it for him since he won Daytona. So for him to get a run that in, finally, pretty cool for that team.
Yeah, and even then,
he's had leads to some better stuff.
Yeah, he's only had 2 since then, and they were Atlanta last year and Daytona this year.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, I didn't even know that. So, yeah, I was gonna say Jeremy Clements is a good example of like, because he came up into the Xfinity series around the same time as Ryan Sieg, and it's funny to watch. Like, they've had really similar careers, just in terms of like being owner drivers and everything. And like Sieg has been noticeably better, but Clements is the one that's gotten the 2 wins.
Yeah, funny how that shit works.
Yeah. So, anyway, that was Rockingham. Now let's go from the shop. I don't know if I turned my sound canceling off, but there was a lead pipe falling sound effect there. It'll be in the show. Whatever. Who cares? It's currently rumored that the 2026 championship finales for NASCAR are expected to return to Homestead Miami Speedway. Hell yeah.
Begging. On my knees, begging right now as I speak for that to happen.
Yeah. I was going to say, we all here on FRP agree that Phoenix sucks as a finale and that Homestead slaps ass and should be the finale.
I've had the opinion for a couple years that Homestead actually serves as a pretty good playoff track, but not the finale track. Though I think that might be because of how the finales tend to be broadcasted more than anything else.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. Yeah.
But either way, I would still take, obviously, a Homestead return for a finale 100,000 times before another Phoenix one.
Yeah, and it's just like Phoenix is just so dull. I can't.
It's lost all the aura it used to have.
Yeah, like it used to be this like weird but like tricky track, and now it just sucks. Like I'm just not.
The Cactus Light's cool, but what else do you have going for
it? Yeah. We've got like an entire parking lot of pavement on the backstretch that you can use sometimes. Isn't that cool?
Yes, I love to go 6 wide on restarts and wipe 10 people out into turn 1.
Yeah.
To rack them up and do it again.
It just takes me back to...
Give me more.
It takes me back to like when NASCAR introduced like the NA 18D package, because everybody was talking about how much the racing sucked, and then I saw people like jelking themselves over like, dude, these restarts are awesome, and I was like, yeah, but your racing sucks if you have to bunch everybody back up to make it good. Like it's lipstick on a pig. What are we doing here?
Yeah. Yep.
And then Phoenix was basically just built to be a restart generator. Like their dream is like, we get green white checkers for championships. And it was like, yeah, the finish of the Xfinity race was cool, but I would like, it shouldn't have to come down to that, man. Yeah.
And so. I'm not going to derail the whole segment or anything, but this is a perfect opportunity to once again remind people that it is possible for a driver to lead every single lap of the entire season except for the last one and finish 4th in points.
I love that. Like, that's so dumb and it's so bad, but like the fact that that can happen, I think tells you all you need to know about like playoff formats. And
it's like how the new Ghost Runner rule in baseball makes it possible for a team to lose in a game where they throw a perfect game.
Yep. Like
why?
I was gonna say, like, we kind of agree on the show that like the playoffs are dumb fun, but I would be lying if I said that it doesn't still bug me. So, but yeah,
I think the playoffs are more palatable at a track like Homestead, where like strategy and experience matter more.
Oh yeah.
than a track like Phoenix.
Well,
It's
yeah.
just the combination of it all together is just it just reeks of slop.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing too. Like we talk, I mean, two of the last three ones we've looked at have been like the guy who won the championship was objectively like not even a top 10 guy either year, and it just comes down to Phoenix has that place, or Penske has Phoenix dialed, and that's really all that fucking matters, you know. So it sucks.
But the last Homestead finale in 2019 when Kyle Busch won, it was like, yeah, you know what? Kyle Busch was one of the best drivers in 2019.
Oh yeah.
And Joey Logano was one of the best drivers in the second half of 2018, and Martin Truex was the best driver of 2017. And then it's like, Joey Logano was the 16th best driver in 2024, but because he's good at one track, and it happens to be the last one, he ended up the champion.
I really thought last year's finale was going to be the one that breaks the playoffs and like makes NASCAR change it.
Time will tell with that one, but
yeah. In other news, the 2026 NASCAR Hall of Fame class nominees are announced, of which Kurt Busch and Randy LaJoie on the ballot for the first time. I think it's a little early for. At first I was like, I think it's a little early for both of those guys, but like when I look at the guys who aren't in yet, I'm like, can you really make a really strong case that Kurt Busch shouldn't? Like, he's more accomplished than Neil Bonnet and Jeff Burton, you know?
Yeah. The tricky thing too is like the problem with the NASCAR Hall of Fame that a lot of other Hall of Fames don't have is that it was created so late that they've had to catch up on 5, almost 6 decades worth of history and accomplishments and people to get themselves into a place where you walk in there and it looks like a place like Cooperstown does.
Yeah.
So for Kurt Busch, it's like, you know, it really isn't too early, but it still almost feels that way because of how much catching up they've had to do.
Yeah, and it almost feels like they've almost overcompensated to where now, I don't want to say they're scraping the bottom of the barrel, because obviously that doesn't, like, all of these guys are all-time greats, right?
And there's guys in Cooperstown that you could argue don't belong there either. Like that's going to happen in any sport.
Yeah, it's just this is one of those years where, again, no disrespect to Kurt Busch or Randy LaJoie or anybody on the ballot, but there's not like this guy has to be in right now kind of guy, you know?
Yeah.
Which in a way is a good thing. You know, there's nobody that we're looking at like, why is this guy not in the Hall of Fame? But yeah, it's interesting. I think obviously Kurt does belong there. Obviously Jeff Burton belongs there. So I think it'd be cool. It'd be cool to get Jack Sprague in, all-time great Truck Series driver. So.
Oh, Jack Sprague absolutely should be.
Yeah. Somehow Humpy Wheeler's not in there yet.
Randy's a tough one because he's got the back-to-back Busch titles, and I think that gave Dale Jr. a lot of weight in terms of his on-track accomplishments. But Randy LaJoie, I don't think really accomplished a whole lot outside of that.
Yeah,
is the problem.
15 Xfinity Series wins. He just had like a 4 or 5 year streak where he was one of the best Busch Series drivers. It actually takes me back to I think it was on the Dale Jr. download where he was talking about, I think it was in 2000 and it was either 2000 or 2001. He had like a deal on the table to go cup racing, and I believe it was Corey. It was one of his kids, might be Corey, was mentioning like, oh, you're not going to be able to like go to my baseball games and stuff like that on Sundays. And then he was like, yeah, no, I want to spend that time with my family. And he told that team that he's like, no, I'm staying in the Busch Series. So there's an interesting like career trajectory where Randy goes cup racing and maybe carves out some success.
Him and Matt Crafton are in the same boat to me because Matt Crafton, on paper, for his championships, is one of the better Truck Series drivers. But if Matt Crafton gets in before Jack Sprague, that'd be really weird.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Matt Crafton has like 9 career wins, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, his 2019 title was a winless championship, and he had the really good 2015. I think like 1/3 of his career wins were 2015 alone.
Yeah, he's got 15 career wins. Yeah.
And of those 15, like only 2 of them have been in the last 9 years.
Yeah, 6 of them were in 2015.
And it also took him until, what, 2008 to win his first one?
It was 07 was his first, or yeah, 08, and then it was another 3 years until he got back there in 2011.
So that's like, so this is his 25th full year in the Truck Series, and you could take the first 7 of those seasons and the last 5, so that's 12, like half his career he just didn't do anything. Literally half of his career is just, okay, and?
That's going to be the most baffling one to look at. It's like, does Matt Crafton belong in the Hall of Fame?
That's going to be a really, really, really tough one to figure out. And circling back to Justin Bonsignore for a second, I think his name is going to come up for that someday.
Oh, yeah, that's
because of all of his modified success. Because if you throw Richie Evans in the Hall of Fame, you absolutely should throw Justin Bonsignore in there someday. And you should absolutely throw Doug Coby in there someday. Yeah. But I think there's a whole group of guys like that have their success is concentrated in lower series where they're going to have to weigh, do we really think these guys are all-time greats, or are we to compare this to AAA success in baseball?
I think there's a lot of Northeast guys who are going to be pretty upset about that.
Hey, and I'm a Northeast guy myself, but I think it's an interesting discussion point.
Yeah. No, I agree. But yeah. In other news, Jesse Love to drive for Beard Motorsports in the Cup Series at Texas and Indianapolis. Really looks like, wonder if RCR is trying to get more Cup time for Jesse Love and getting him ready for that second Cup car in the next couple of years. Because we've been talking about this a lot, and it's mostly just been me pitching this this idea out there. But I'm like, is Austin Hill ever going to move up? Like,
I don't know.
It almost seems to be like, because he was driving for Beard Motorsports for like a season, right? And then he's the best plate track driver in the Xfinity Series, and Beard Motorsports, a team that only runs plate races, except for these two with Jesse Love, isn't running him anymore. And they have an alliance with RCR. And I thought, like, they hired Anthony Alfredo and Parker Retzlaff, but not Austin Hill, and RCR wasn't even putting him in the Cup Series. And now you have, they're both running, I think, 2 or 3 races for RCR this season. 33. But now you have Beard just going after Jesse Love, and I don't know. Like, as a meme, I make jokes about Austin Hill being a plate track merchant, but there's a little bit of seriousness to it. Because
Austin Hill is the single funniest driver in NASCAR right now.
He really is. Okay, so we were talking about, Davey was talking about this. So many of his
wins have been so dumb. Just all the different things that had to come together for some of, Martinsville a couple weeks ago. The amount of shit that had to go right for Austin Hill to end up in the position to win that race was truly unbelievable.
Yeah.
But then there's other races where he's just, just laid an absolute ass whooping on everybody else and dominated and won.
Yeah. So I was mentioning this a few weeks ago when Davey and I were talking about it. I think it was after Martinsville. And he was mentioning how much he loves when Austin Hill wins, not because he likes him, but because of how mad it makes everybody. And I was like, yeah, that's me with William Byron. Like, I don't give a shit about William Byron, but it's really funny when he wins because everybody gets really mad about it.
I'm in the exact same boat for Austin Hill. I don't like him. I don't dislike him. He's just there. But the fact that so many people get their panties in a twist whenever he wins makes it that much funnier.
Yeah.
And I'm like that with Denny Hamlin too, because so many people dislike Denny Hamlin, and at this point, for what?
It's me.
And that's a whole other can of worms for a different day. But but I'm the exact same way with Denny Hamlin, because I know whenever he wins, people are just gonna be rip shit, and it's like, well, why?
Yeah. I was gonna say, as the resident Denny Hamlin hater on this podcast, touch grass, people. Go outside. It's not worth it. It's like,
do you really dislike him, or is that just the trendy thing to do?
Yep.
And I guess right now it's the trendy thing to dislike Austin Hill, even though it's objectively funny when he wins.
Yeah. So yeah, cool for Jesse Love. He's local from where I'm from, so that's pretty cool. My brother-in-law knows him from when he used to race short tracks around here. So we'll see. The rumor that Kyle Busch could be on his way out has been going around for a while, so you never know. NASCAR has filed a motion to amend its counterclaim against 2311 and Front Row Motorsports and their ongoing legal dispute. We'll just touch on this real quick because we've been kind of keeping up on this, but basically they found new information after filing their motion, and they said after the deadline they, quote, produced more than 200,000 pages of emails, texts, and memoranda. Those documents indisputably confirm what NASCAR alleged in its counterclaim. 2311, Front Row, and Curtis Polk knowingly entered into illegal agreements with other teams on issues such as fixing the compensation that they received from NASCAR and allocating how that compensation would be divided amongst the co-conspirator teams. End quote. It was carried out, as NASCAR alleges from the paper trail, by using Jonathan Marshall of the Race Team Alliance as a conduit per J-Ski. So, be interesting.
What a mess this whole thing has been.
And this is exactly what we talked about when this first happened, is this is going to drag on for a long time. Like, lawsuits don't just happen overnight. So
I think the season will end before this lawsuit does.
It might honestly drag on for years. Like, I mean, obviously this is not to the same level of it, but like, prime example, Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos. Theranos shut down in 2015, and she was indicted that year, and she didn't get sentenced until 2023. So,
yeah,
obviously a much bigger scale problem, but still, that's just
the analogy works though.
Yeah.
But I still think at this point in time that either side could win that case. Yeah, I don't think it's set in stone for NASCAR to win, and I don't think it's set in stone for the teams to win still either. I think there's a lot more still that'll come out and to be argued and all that before I think there can really be a definitive opinion either way.
Yeah, and I think I would say, like, just on its own, I would say that the teams have a very good case. The problem is North American sports have a history of getting antitrust waivers, so that'll be a problem. And finally, NASCAR changed the name of the Drive for Diversity program to the Driver Development Program. And I just wanted to call this out because, man, it's crazy that as soon as it's no longer like you're not socially being pressured into being into diversity, that every single corporation just stops doing it. So it's real cool, you guys.
This isn't a can of worms. This is a bucket of worms.
Yeah. This is the whole goddamn sidewalk after it's rained and the worms are out there trying to dry out.
What I will say one thing about this, and that is Target's foot traffic has decreased very noticeably in the last couple of months.
Yeah. So
I'll leave it at that.
Rip Bozo. Yeah, no, it's annoying. But them's the breaks, I guess. So not to go too far.
It'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah, we're pretty clear about things that we support and we're on, but keep fighting the good fights, people. And just remember that corporations aren't your friends. And with that, bottom split moment of the week. Did we have other ones other than Catherine Legg? I had another one and then I forgot. So
I would say the ARCA East race in general.
Oh, I missed that one.
Nah, it was a bit of a stinker.
Oh, man.
There were some cars that were just so dreadfully slow. They got parked, I think, in the first 5 or 10 laps of the race.
That's
and
awesome.
Predictably, the JGR entry ran away with it again.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Because though I will say this though, while I think it was pretty easy to predict that a JGR car would win, I think the ceiling for Brent Cruz is much higher than the ceiling for William Sawalich.
Oh shit. That'll be interesting to watch. I guess by extension, I'll just go. Supercross was really lame this week. I don't think there was a single lead change in any of the race, like in all 6 races or 8 races.
Yikes!
Chase Sexton won by 18 seconds. So it was a pretty dull race. What was your road to pro moment of the week?
We touched on it a bit already, but Alpha Prime Racing for how that team performed in the Xfinity race, and specifically Parker Retzlaff, because he had his own issues towards the end of that race. I'm pretty sure he got caught up in one of the wrecks towards the end.
Yeah.
And to be able to recover from that as quickly as he did with not a lot of track time left to get back up into the top 3 was a phenomenal job by him and his pit crew to, dot all their I's and cross their T's and get back into high gear to get back where they were.
Oh, yeah.
But again, Alpha Prime Racing as a whole for the best weekend they've ever had, and for the lower teams in general with again how Jeremy Clements did as well. So shout out to all of them for how they did, and again in the weekend in general for how much of a banger it was.
Oh yeah. Oh, I just remembered my bottom slip moment. It was Dean Thompson won a stage. That's what it was. My road to pro moment. My cat's yelling at me. Hi, buddy.
He's trying to tell you his road to pro moment.
I think I just woke him up. My road to pro moment was so Casey Cane's return for this week was already pretty good, but then you had that they announced it like on a Friday, referencing the Casey Cane Friday meme, and then on Friday during practice they made their own version of that video. Of like, finally it's Casey Cane Friday, set to Rollin' by Limp Bizkit with just like cinematic shots of him in practice from this weekend. It was awesome.
That was incredible.
Go watch it. NASCAR social media has been awesome recently.
Yeah, them posting it and acknowledging it was so cool.
Yeah. Which also reminded me that I was talking about this the other day, that like I think I cursed Sheldon Creed with Sheldon Creed Thursday. And so I need to post like a version of that video that's been reversed and like inverted and be like, I'm sorry, Sheldon, I'm undoing the curse. So we'll have to see if I end up posting that this Thursday. We'll see if he can finally have things start going right.
The curse of the Bambino, but it's Sheldon Creed.
Yeah.
He finally wins an Xfinity race after 86 seasons.
If I do that and then he wins the very next weekend, like I will believe in God at that point. Like So, and on that note, this has been a very special version of the Fake Racers podcast. Dewey, anything you want to plug?
Plug. We'll be back in the fall for Oofsides. I can't wait for that. You should watch it when we start it again. But in the meantime, keep it up with these guys. They do a really good job, and yeah. I'm glad that they asked me to fill in this week. It was a fun time.
Oh yeah, yeah. This off season's been so wild. We might have to do like a draft review show, like in the spring or something, if we have the time.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, so we'll see about that. I don't know if I have anything to plug other than actually, kind of I mean, not relating to me, but if there's already something up, I'll put it in the description of this episode. But Jerry Robin, very likable, very talented Supercross racer, had a pretty nasty practice crash this week, and as of right now, he said he has no feeling below his waist, which is very sad. But you know, he's a very good dude. He's always had a real positive attitude about stuff, and so hopefully they'll have some kind of GoFundMe up. So if that is up, it'll be in the description. I'm probably going to throw some money. If not, go look for it. Keep Jerry in your thoughts and prayers. He's got a long road ahead of him, but I know he's going to make it through. But it sucks to see, you know. And on that note, I don't know what I'm going to put in as the outro music. I just realized I didn't get it from Joe. Maybe I'll just put Scarlet Fire like I do on Oofsides here. But
should you Rolling from Limp Bizkit?
On this Casey Cane Monday.
Yeah.
Keep on rolling, baby. And we'll see you next time.